Hello, brilliant entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to episode number 230 of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. You can find all the relevant links and show notes over at tashcorbin.com/230. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you feminine time management strategies that boost your productivity. So let's dive on in. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart Centered Business Podcast. Traditionally, when we think of things like time management and productivity, we can associate that with jamming more things in, how to really hustle, get up at 4 a.m. and get stuff done before the kids wake up and the sun wakes up and even the early birds are still sleeping. Do more. I even used to say when I worked in corporate, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Productivity was about jamming as much in as possible. It was about making sure that you extracted every possible inch out of every possible second. Time management strategies were not about how to make things easier or more effective. Time management was all about how to make sure you can do 100,000 things in 4 minutes a day and jamming as many of those 4-minute increments in as you could. Now, what I have discovered, and something that I've had to detox myself from, is just how masculine dominated those productivity and time management strategies are and how much they can really drain my energy and end up being really ineffective for me as well. And over the course of running my business, I have discovered how to really get the best results from myself. And that is by embracing a more feminine energy orientation towards time management, productivity, and getting results in my business. Now, I believe that we are a balance of masculine and feminine energy, and I 100% believe that we want to keep those things in balance. I'm not saying it's all just the feminine energy or it's all just the masculine energy, but for myself, I know that with the corporate background that I have, and even with my experience of my education and being in high school and particularly in university as well, I have been really focused on those masculine dominated strategies. And I do need to detox from some of that programming that says the masculine orientation is the best way to do it. I know for myself that that just isn't the case. So my question to you is, what if you could achieve more and have better outcomes, but do it in less time and with less work? Now, one of the big things I want to say before I even jump into my strategies with you is to just notice how you feel when I say words like easy. How much have we been told that easy equals wrong? Easy is the cheat's way. What about how you feel when I say the word lazy? I am on a mission to fall in love with lazy. What about the word fun? Can growing a business and being productive and getting work done and getting results be fun? They are the 3 words that I focus on whenever I'm going for a big goal. Easy, lazy, fun. ELF is my little acronym for it. With ELF, I am able to pay attention to my thoughts and feelings about those words and look for ways where I'm making things hard, where I feel like I need to look like I'm really diligent, and where maybe I'm sucking the joy out of the thing that I'm doing. So I've got 5 tips for you on how to really embrace more feminine time management strategies and boost your productivity. And I have a 6th bonus one for you as well. So number 1, make your to-do list smaller. And I don't know how many times I was told this, and how many times I was like, yeah, but I'm a really productive person, so I can have a longer list. And I know from experience that having a longer list overwhelms. Having a longer list makes you less productive. Think about it. If you are looking at your to-do list and there are 100 things on that to-do list and you get 6 done for the day, do you feel like you've totally smashed it and nailed it for the day? Or do you feel like, well, I've only done 6%? On the other hand, if you had a list of 3 things to get done for the day, you get them all done, how do you feel at the end of the day? And how does that translate into your energy the next day? Often we have a very short-term focus when it comes to our to-do list, and we overestimate what we can achieve in the short term and underestimate what we can achieve in the long term. This is because we have giant to-do lists in front of us and we only ever make tiny incremental progress in those giant lists comparative to the number of tasks that we've given ourselves. So give yourself a smaller list. Go through that list of things that you have been transcribing from page to page to page in your to-do planner and start crossing some of those things out. Which of those things are just not a priority right now? Now, some of those things might need to be put somewhere else. You can outsource them to someone else. You can put them in your toy box. I'll play with that later, but it's not a priority for me right now. Some things you might need to have on your urgent to-do list and get them done, but I challenge you to get really honest with yourself about how critical it is for that thing to get done today. And be honest with yourself. Are you capable of achieving that entire list today? What are the chances you are going to have a successful day and tick it all off? What are the chances that there's still going to be something left at the end of the day? So every day when I write down my to-do list for the day, I write a to-do list that I have 100% confidence I will absolutely smash. Usually it's 3 or 4 things. If I finish it early and I want to go and play with some other things, I've got plenty of options lurking away in my toy box, in other spaces. I can take things from the next day or from future plans and get some things done early. But when I keep my to-do list small, I absolutely nail the productivity thing because I am in momentum. I feel successful, and that feeling creates a snowball effect of its own. If I'm not experiencing that feeling of I nailed it today, at least 4 days a week, then I end up feeling like I'm behind. I end up feeling like, oh, there's so much to do. And that feeling creates more of it, and it snowballs its own feeling. So make your to-do list smaller and start saying no to things. Yep, it might be nice for you to jump on and do that free interview, but it's not a priority for you right now. Yeah, it would be great for you to create a new freebie and a welcome sequence and an upsell, but right now your focus is on getting sales conversations and having connected conversations with people. If that's the case, focus on the important things. Because the other thing that I see when people have their to-do list far too big is that they choose the things that aren't actually going to move them forward. When I challenge you to get to the 4 most important things you need to focus on, then you are going to have to focus on the things that are going to move you forward. You can't get distracted by those 1%ers. You have a very small number of things that you're able to write onto your to-do list, so you have to pick the ones that are going to have the biggest impact, and you're less likely to avoid those things by distracting yourself with the other less important things that are on that ginormous list. So that's number 1, smaller list, say no to some things. Number 2, give yourself space. Space to rest, space to play, space to dial up your creativity, space for processing. Now, one of my experiences in the corporate world that I had was I was in a consulting role, and one of the things I had to do for each project was an end of project report. And in most cases, we would be allocated 2 days of time, so 16 hours of time to do that end of project report. And I actually ended up getting in the habit of taking those 2 days as work from home days when I knew I had that report to work on. And I would get that report done in 2 or 3 hours. But it was 2 or 3 hours at the end of each day. So I'd do my work from home day and I would batch cook up some beautiful food, and I would get my laundry done, and I would tidy the house. I'd do some painting, and then I'd sit down for a couple of hours at the end of the day and really smash out that report. Because with that space and playfulness and tidy and moving my bodies, I was actually getting that report clear in my mind. I am a very spatial, bodily thinker and processor. And by doing that, I was able to craft an end of project report that would normally take 2 days of sitting at my desk staring at my screen in 2 or 3 hours. But I needed that rest, spaciousness, and creativity in the time before I sat down to write that report. And the reason why I started doing this at home was because when I was in the office and I was on my 2 days of report writing, I would get in so much trouble because I would be distracting people. I'd be staring out the window saying, oh my gosh, look at those ladies walking along there, da, 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 because I wasn't actually in the right space. I hadn't done my processing to write out the report. And if I sat there and forced myself to stare at the computer screen, I couldn't force it. So I'd get in trouble sitting at my desk, distracting everyone, helping someone with this and going and tidying the kitchen and coming up with ideas for maybe a social event for the workplace. And so my boss would say to me, you need to stop talking to other people. And she actually moved my desk so that I would sit and I wouldn't talk to anyone else. And even the talking to other people was mostly helping them, but sometimes I was distracting them. I know that. And so I would sit staring at this computer screen and I'd have this blinking cursor and I'd just be looking at a white page and I would just be staring and I could not get it clear. And so when I turned it into, okay, I'll work from home instead, and I gave myself that freedom, that space, that rest, that creativity, then the 2 hours that I did put into report writing was effortless. It just flowed. So, and I know that I'm the same with my business. For 3 hours before I sat down to record this podcast and a couple of others that I've recorded before this one, I was out walking in town, having lunch, and just giving myself some spaciousness. And I knew which podcast episodes I was going to be recording. And it meant that I had the story of being at my desk in my consulting role that came to mind. And I was like, oh, I can share that in my podcast today. So I know for myself that if I give myself spaciousness before a big task, I get that task done more efficiently and more effectively. I, these days, record my podcasts in a single take, mostly off the cuff with a couple of dot points. I've got a couple of dot points on my screen here. But I can only do that if I've had space. If I force myself between busy, trying to record podcast, busy, I stumble over my words. I can't process it properly. I can't string my 2 sentences together without making lots of mistakes. So give yourself space. Give yourself rest, playfulness, and creativity. Now, I have another cool story for you on this one, and this came out of a conversation I had with an amazing lady called Aisha Kennedy. I'll link over to her in the show notes of this episode. And if you don't follow Aisha, please do go and follow her. She's brilliant. And I was talking to her about creative outlets. Because in 2017, when I did a big review of my business, I had 37 different products and services that people could buy. And through a conversation I had with Aisha about this, I recognized and realized that what I was doing was funneling all of my creative energy straight into my business. And in doing so, I actually broke my business. I slowed down my growth. I slowed down the income that I was earning. I overwhelmed myself and spread myself too thin. If I had given myself a creative outlet outside of my business during the 2 years before 2017, I have no doubt that I wouldn't have tried to get that creative energy from my business, and I wouldn't have tried to use my business as my only creative outlet, thus feeling like I'm constantly in this spacing needing to create things for my business. Now, the reason why this was something that happened for me was because at the time, in 2016 and 17 in particular, I had huge goals for my business and I wanted to be the most productive that I could be. And so if I was to decide, okay, I'm going to spend 3 hours playing with some paints and just, mucking around, I can't justify that time. Right? It feels like I'm wasting time going and playing with the art and having a creative outlet. But it's easy to justify creative time in your business because it could make you money. It could get you followers. It could grow your business. And so there is using your business as a creative outlet, and then there is like using your business as your only creative outlet. So by giving yourself space and having rest, and especially having creative outlets and social outlets other than your business, the time that you spend on your business can be focused and much more effective and more likely to get you results. I speak to so many creative entrepreneurs and so many women who talk about the fact that they need to create 6 different programs because they need to express their creativity. They need to write a book and they have to have events and they have to do this. And they label themselves as multi-passionate. And I honestly believe if you want your business to grow exponentially, quickly and easily and effortlessly, you need to be really specific and narrow, hyper-focused. And so for many people, the best gift you can give your business is getting your creative outlet in other spaces so that your focus in your business can be refined. So that's number 2, is giving yourself space. Number 3 is pay attention to your thoughts and feelings, because many of the behaviors and habits that we get into in our business come from programming. So I know that if I work on my business, do maybe some social media stuff sitting on the couch, I feel like it's not as productive as when I'm doing it at my desk. But sometimes I do just need to go and sit on the couch. When I am working on like web pages or design or those sorts of things, my favorite way to do that is in the recliner, legs up. I've got a little lap table and just playing with things in that position. That is actually a really productive time for me to be doing creative things. I love getting down on the floor and working as well. And sometimes I'll feel guilty for sitting on the floor and working. And it's because of this programming that I need to be sitting at my desk and working in a certain way for it to be productive time. And I also want you to pay attention to your thoughts about what it looks like. Because if you've got someone else in your home or someone else who's witnessing you and you are doing something that doesn't look like you're being productive, sometimes we can do productive things to keep up appearances. So something that I like to do every single day is to step outside and get my feet in the grass and play with Munchkin and all of those sorts of things. And I notice my thoughts about, especially at first, I'll be like, oh, I hope Davey doesn't see. He's going to think that I'm, bunking off and I'm not being productive in my business. And it was so fascinating to just pay attention to those thoughts and those concerns and worries that I had about productivity and time management and what I should achieve in a day. Or I can't take time off because I'm launching. Or I can't go to the movies during the day because I need to be really focusing on this income goal right now. And in fact, the opposite is true for me. If I go to the movies during the day, I have a really productive morning and a really productive afternoon because I know I'm going to the movies in the middle of the day. And so it's the whole Parkinson's law Pareto principle combining. A project will expand to take up the time that you give it, and 80% of your results come from 20% of your effort. So when you have limited time to work on your business and you have a 4-point to-do list, that means you're going to focus on the 20% of things that get you 80% of your results, and you're going to get them done really quickly because your project can only expand to the time that you give it. So for me, I know that if I'm out walking every day, if I'm looking after my body, if I'm taking time to go to the movies, if I'm finishing early 3 days a week to spend time with my partner, if I'm doing all of those things, I'm actually more productive. I'm more effective. And the measure that I have for my business success is not what can I create, like what are all the things I can do, how many things can I check off my to-do list. The measure of success in my business ultimately is how much money does my business generate and how many people can I serve? That's the measure of success in my business. And if I can do that in an hour a day, why not do it in an hour a day? Why is it more worthwhile if I've worked hard for it? That is all programming, and we need to pay attention to those thoughts and feelings. So that's number 3, is pay attention. Pay attention. Number 4, nourish yourself. And this is probably the big one for me with productivity, because when I had big projects to achieve in corporate, when I had big deadlines coming up, I would eat terrible food, work long hours, give up my exercise, sleep less hours, and drink less water and drink more coffee and alcohol. And at the time, it was very short-term focused. I could get the thing done and smash it out. But I have no doubt upon reflection that if I'd kept my boundaries about my work time, if I had looked after my health and well-being, if I'd drunk lots of water, not resorted to coffee and alcohol, not skipped the exercise, I would have actually still been able to meet those deadlines. I would have still been able to achieve those goals. But there is, again, it's this programming of when this requires my effort and energy and attention, I need to stop looking after myself. I need to sacrifice some things. And for me, the things that I cannot sacrifice anymore, and I refuse to sacrifice because I know that if I do, it actually makes me less productive, is sleep, great quality food, moving my body consistently, and joy, laughter, time off. Those things are just non-negotiable for me now because I know that when I get those things, when I really look after myself, that's when I get the best out of myself anyway. So when I'm launching, I go for 2 walks a day instead of just the 1. I ramp up the nourishment, the time out, and the fun because that gets me better results. And that brings me to point number 5, and that is get really clear on the outcome that you're going for. Because the outcome that you are striving for is not working 16-hour days. That's not why you started a business. Oh, you know what? I'm going to start a business so I can work really long hours and burn myself out. That is not what you signed up for. Why did you decide to start this business? Why are you going for the goals that you're going on right now? And what is the outcome that you are chasing? And the fastest way, the most effective way, the most productive way for you to achieve that outcome is not burning yourself out. It is by really making sure that your time management and productivity strategies are a balance of the masculine and the feminine. And for 90% of the people I talk to, the thing that they need to work on is bringing up the feminine and reducing some of the masculine. Because whipping yourself into shape doesn't create sustainable long-term productivity outcomes. And your outcome is more important than how you got there. I was talking to someone a couple of days ago and she'd set herself a goal of a $10,000 month. And when she'd set that goal, she'd mapped it all out specifically. She was going to get these clients and all of that kind of thing. And she was going to sell this course and it was $150 and she was going to do this launch and all that kind of stuff. And on the second last day of the month, she had someone get in touch with her who was interested in getting her services with some consulting and doing a VIP package with her. And they wanted to get her doing 2 months of some very specific work, absolutely in her zone of genius. And their budget was $10,000. And we were having a conversation about it because she said for 2 days she was umming and ahhing about whether to take on the project or not because she wasn't really sure if she wanted to do the project, but because she already had a plan of where that money should have come from. And she didn't realize that what she was doing was trying to stick to the process instead of just being clear on the outcome. And in the end, she's like, of course I should take this. Of course I'm going to do this. I would love to do this project. She was resisting it because it wasn't the hard work that she had thought she was going to be putting into place. So if your goal is to bring in $10,000 and someone decides that they want to gift you $10,000, do you say, oh, that's really lovely, but that doesn't count because I want the money to come from here? Your outcome is the thing that we're focused on here. And for most people, when it comes to productivity and time management, they're not focused on the outcomes they want to achieve. They're focused on the hours that they want to work. I want to work 28 hours this week. I want to get 25 podcasts recorded in the next 3 weeks. And they're focused on their inputs and their outputs, and they're not actually focused on the outcome itself. So get clear on the outcome, because at the end of the day, if you can get to that outcome the easy, lazy, fun way, then why wouldn't you? So just to recap, smaller to-do list, say no to some things, give yourself lots of space for rest, creativity, and processing time. Pay attention to those thoughts and feelings. Notice where your programming is telling you need to work harder. Nourish yourself and get clear on the outcome that you are aiming for. Now, this is going to be a really juicy conversation for us. So I'd love for you to come over to the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Facebook group. Use hashtag #PodcastAha. Let me know you've been listening to episode number 230 and share with me any light bulbs that you have or any questions that you have about feminine time management strategies and boosting your productivity. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. I've been Tash Corbin. You've been a fabulous listener. And until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.